Hello, dear divers of the Self Love Continuum series. I did not record the very beginning of our class, so our landing circle, and just the very beginning of what I was touching in on our discussion today. So I am creating this adjunct to our regular class recording so that you can have this information and so that you can have the fullness of this first session of our series. Again, I'm really sorry for missing that. I have never done that, and it's always been a fear of mine. So now we meet it, and I have the chance to forgive myself and make it right. So here I am. Okay, so we started as we always do with our opening circle and just kind of landing in together. So if you can just take some time to let your eyes close or your gaze drop down towards the floor. We're just taking a moment to drop in together here and knowing that this sacred space of our creation expands and goes across all distance and time, so it includes everyone in our group. And we have this sacred space to return to just by naming it so. So as we consciously land into that today, just taking a few moments here of open attention to just notice what's here now. What am I noticing? And bringing some attention to your breath, noticing how your breath is moving through your body right now without needing to do a single thing to change it, just witnessing and noticing, being with consciously. And notice how your body just naturally draws the breath in on the inhale. So it naturally does what it needs to take in support and nourishment from the air on the inhale. And how it lets go and releases on the exhale, just letting the body land deeper into the earth. Just noticing the beauty of this exchange, the taking in and the letting go, and how your incredible body does this continually throughout all your days living in this body. And then on your next exhale, just letting yourself have the gift of letting go. So if there's anything that's pulling your attention from the time you're taking to be with this recording, just on the exhale, letting that maybe just drop outside of this space, knowing that you can pick it up at the end of our time if you'd like to, or at any point you need to, but just for now, giving yourself the gift of this time to just be here. Be with yourself, be in it, be in our shared field. And then on the next exhale or two, just noticing how our bodies as we exhale sort of sink back down, return into earth space, and how on that exhale as we're dropping down, that the earth is right there underneath to receive us, to support us. No matter where we are, Earth is there supporting us, hugging us back with her gravity, its gravity, Earth body gravity, holding us. So taking a moment to let yourself really receive that holding, that support. As we take time to consciously receive, we are able to then receive deeper that sense of support. So really let your flesh body, your bones, your liquid body have this support. And if there's any audible breath that wants to come out for you on the next exhale or two, you can go ahead and let it. And we'll begin our transition back and just taking your time with the transition. It's important to be mindful of our transitions. So let our body being have that time to move from one type of space and experience to another. So letting your eyes start to open with some softness, maybe taking in the space around you, behind you, out beyond the computer screen before you come back and return to sharing some screen time with me here. So even though here in this recording we can't actually take the time to see and be seen by each other because it's not in this type of linear time, we still can take a moment to let ourselves just really see. So maybe see me through the screen or see the space around you, and also be seen by space around you, by earth body, by if you have a pet there with you, by the walls of the space that hold you, but to just have that experience of letting yourself be witnessed. And we are all in this continued shared field together. So we are, by naming this sacred space that we're sharing over this next 6 weeks, we are getting a chance to tap in and be in the field and see, be seen, be known by each other. Just let yourself have that. And then we had our circle where we shared each other's names. So for that, I'm just going to name everyone who's in this series together, so that we can kind of hold each other in that way. So we have Carrie, and we have Lori, and we have Asiana, and we have Arlene, and we have Salome, and we have Gitti, we have Aria, we have Carolyn, we have Joyce, and we have Jamie, and we have Kim, and we have me, Corey. So that is our group for this point in time. Let's see, Carrie's zooming in from Pennsylvania. Lori's zooming in from Broomfield when she'll be here. Asiana is in Denver. Arlene is outside of Rochester. Salome is in Tasmania. Do I have that right? I think so. Gitti is in Jerusalem. Aria is in Montana. Carolyn is in New York as well, outside of Rochester. Joyce is in Rochester, just outside of Rochester. Jamie, I think, is outside of Rochester, but I'm not sure at this point. And Kim is outside of Boulder. So you guys can correct me if I don't have that exactly placed correctly, but I think I do. All right, so I also wanted to just share with you all, and again, this will be a repeat for those who have heard this part via the live class, but wanted to share with you, I always like to share a little bit about how I came to offer this series. Just for some context for you. Emily used to say context is everything. So sharing some context, and I find that really to be true. So I knew towards the end of last series, and actually for a little bit, I felt this kind of call to, in myself, a call back to further developing self-love and what that means to me, but also a call to offer that out as an extended inquiry via virtual series. So I had felt that opening and kind of moving and brewing, and I always open up to the field and ask, how can I be of service in terms of pointing and offering and opening a doorway for then which people can dive in and have their own explorations. And so I felt clear about that. And then as I opened to the dive this time, much like I did actually last series, for those of you who were with me for that, I felt called and compelled to draw a card from the Weaver's Oracle. So these are some journey cards. Um, and so as I was opening up to the creation of the dive, I drew a card, and for this time, this one, I drew this card here. And so this card, this essence and entity's name is Braid, and it's Udgon of the Bear Claw. So as I was sharing with the group, I was saying that, when I first drew the card, I had a little bit of a like, oh, because it's been a hard stretch. And I think I was maybe hoping for something lighter, um, softer, maybe more nourishing in a way. But I was trusting the process, as I always do when I step into this sacred space. And I sat with her and dove with her and this essence of the bear claw and warrior. This essence in particular is known for strengthening the power of warriors in general, but even more specifically women. I'll come a little closer again there. And I read just a few pieces. So the description of this is quite long, and maybe I can share that if the group wants that at another time. But I just read a few things. So one of the things I read was that she preferred to remain outside of the usual and beyond the anticipated. In that respect, her life was a beacon of freedom and greatly inspired many women towards expressing their own extraordinary true natures. And so I thought that was so perfect for our time together. There was a lot about it around empowering those who felt vulnerable, some aspects of protection, but also a piece here. I think the piece that I read was that there it is. As she reached the dancing ground, her fearsome power encircled the warriors, and her raw strength released the wings inside their heart. And that's part of what I'm hoping for you all for this series too, is that some of those wings inside your heart, inside your being, can be released, and that we can know our 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 roar, whether that's quiet or whether that is loud and full, but to know our essence and know that we're perfect just as we are. And one of the pieces, I'm not sure if this is in the recording or not. I think it's not, because I think I started recording after. But one of the things that was named, a couple of things that were named. So Arya spoke about some of the discomfort at certain times as she's in this journey in self-love exploration, and how it's something she's been cultivating. And Joyce also spoke to that and spoke to having some humility around trust that it doesn't always maybe necessarily need to be done by her, what needs to be done, and also the listening into her own being and knowing, hearing when maybe she needs to take a step back or a rest. And one of the things that Arlene spoke to was the image of the rose that I had put out for this series, and how that really resonated with her and touched her. And I probably won't get her words exactly right, but it was something to the effect of, oh gosh, I should re-listen to the recording. Well, there's no recording. I won't get it exactly perfect, but it was a piece around how the rose is as it is, and there's perfection in it, essentially. And then I sort of repeated that and said that I am as I am, and there's perfection in that, and that um, there's there's nothing that we have to do. It's already done. We are complete. We are perfect in our essence as we are, and so being able to honor the maybe the already doneness, the perfection of that, just being exactly as we are, and that's okay and perfect, more than okay. It's part of what we're doing here, I believe. And so, anyway, this is probably even longer than what I shared, but as I was sharing about Braid and Udgan of the Bear Claw, that warrior, I was sharing that what I also realized is that it does take a warrior spirit sometimes to find our way back to self-love, and maybe that's even the most important kind of warrior spirit that we can have. And it takes courage, and it takes a willingness to engage with what's here and what's inside, and also a willingness to stand up for what's important to us, that flexibility to be able to change and take in new information, but to be with it, us, moment to moment, and to honor that. And I also spoke about how self-love is not a journey, or is not it's not just something that's foo-foo or extra or a luxury, that it actually is an essential part of the journey back to home, back to whole, from which we all have come and which we all still are, a microcosm of that bigger macrocosm. And that I really think that that is what we're doing here. So part of what we're doing here, I think, is to really know ourselves, to become and also remember, excuse me, ourselves. And that what we are is love, ultimately and truly. And so, how can we know that if we can't cultivate self love, self compassion, self knowing? I also spoke to the fact of if we are alive, particularly if we've made it far enough to be alive as adults, we probably have some aspects of trauma in our lives, whether that is big or small. You know, some of even the experience of birth can be traumatizing. The experience of being weaned can be traumatizing, um, and so there's so many different levels of navigating trauma, which is really times when we've maybe separated from ourselves out of necessity or out of something that entered into our space or our being. And so it's important to have patience with ourselves on this journey, and to embark on that quest to remember our wholeness. And I think that's what self-love is about. Um, I also I shared a quote from Teal Swan, who is a spiritual teacher of sorts, that I have sort of listened to off and on, Bonnie, over many years. Just very off and on. But I was re-listening a few weeks ago because I noticed she had something out on self-love, and I shared this quote that she shared, and what she said was that you cannot complete this journey to self-love without moving through the processes of awareness, truth, equanimity, forgiveness, self-reliance, trust, responsibility, gratitude, realization, compassion, unity, freedom, letting go, joy, and boundless love. She says, it is the spiritual journey through which all other journeys are realized. I found that so fitting and true to my own experience. So I also spoke to, I put out the question, so what is self love? And that's something that I'm hoping we can have an overall inquiry through this series, this time together over these 6 weeks, and that you'll uncover your own unique answers to what is self love. And I share that for mine, from this point of where I'm at today, I would say that self love is developing intimacy with myself. It's taking the time to know myself and realizing myself could be myself, it could be my primordial body, it could be my cosmic body, but this being that I have access to through this unique portal of experience that is me embodied. And so I spoke to how it's, to me, self love is honoring. It's it's honoring what I start to know about myself. It's caring for myself. It's considering my needs in the bigger picture, and my needs as a part of what's included in the whole. And so taking that into consideration in either my actions or my inactions. It's being an advocate for myself with others and in the world, but also sometimes, maybe most importantly, with me, an advocate for myself with me, within myself, for the voices I have, the conditioning I have. So an advocate for that life essence, that spirit that's inside me. And sometimes being an advocate really does take the heart of a warrior to return to in the face of judgment from others, judgment from self, maybe what we are told we are supposed to do. It means being able to take the risk to lose love externally. So maybe that's from the outside, maybe it's in relationship with another parent, teacher, partner, society, culture, but it's being able to take that risk to say, if what feels truest for me is that I need to have integrity within myself, that sometimes that might mean, um, yeah, I might just need to take that risk in terms of being with what others might say, do, or think of me. But a willingness to lose that love if what it means is a sacrificing of what feels truest for you. And when we can prioritize what feels truest for ourselves, then we can begin to feel into that love that we are, that essence that's shining through that says, this is the way for this being right now, and it can change. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, the last piece I think I want to say here, and actually, I may have said this on so this may be a repeat, so I'll just sum this piece up. This may be a repeat. Um, I'll say that self love also to me is this inquiry of who am I? And Continuum is really, this is part of how I see Continuum as a practice of self love. And we'll talk about this a little bit more next class. But Continuum is a way of developing that intimacy, of honoring, of caring, of nourishing, of knowing. So, like I said, we'll work with that a little bit more next class, I think. Um, and then I think this other piece, I'm going to double check, but I think this next piece is in the recording. the piece around how everything I'm inviting you into is an invitation, and to really, honor your place in that. So to titrate as needed, to notice if you have resistance, if you do, to honor that, and also let yourself maybe peek at the edges sometimes to see if there's places that might serve you to open into. And then to please just name if there's something that doesn't work for you, or if you need help adapting something. I'm happy to help in any way, but really naming that you need support is a really important skill of self-love. So I'll encourage us to practice that throughout this time together. Okay, so there might be a little bit of duplicate, but I think you've got what you need from the beginning of the time together today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and go ahead and listen to the rest of the recording to get the information from class today. All right, I send you love.